Hey everyone, it's me, Yvonne. I like to record and post my discussions for various reasons. Hopefully, someone finds it helpful. So, I'm just going to go ahead and read through my discussion for the week. Module 1 discussion. I am the middle child in my family of 5, one older sister and one younger. We grew up in a household full of violence, domestic, and child abuse. It was not until I learned about the teaching/learning processes that I began to understand the various ways my sisters and I were affected by the violence and abuse. While I have learned a bit about trauma in other courses, this is the first course I am able to openly discuss my family experiences with violence in the home. It was somewhat refreshing to read through the required reading for the week because it made me realize that what my sisters and I experienced was not what we deserved. In fact, what we were exposed to denied our right to a safe and stable home environment. I also realized that though our experiences were very unique to each of us as individuals, we have something in common. We were all victims, the forgotten victims of violence in our home. Despite growing up with the same set of parents and in the same exact house, my sisters and I have had very different childhood experiences. My older sister, by 2 years, witnessed the most domestic violence. I have no idea whether she herself was abused physically, but I do know that growing up, she was emotionally disturbed, displayed behavioral issues, had difficulty learning, lacked empathy, was and is socially isolated, was very aggressive, and has been in an abusive relationship for over 10 years, all of which UNICEF discusses. Though she believes she was not developmentally affected by the violence and abuse, the evidence and research says otherwise. On the other hand, my younger sister, by 2 years, was physically, emotionally, and psychologically abused by my mom, which is not uncommon, seeing as 40% of child abuse victims come from homes where domestic violence has occurred. As for me, I was not physically abused, at least I don't think I was, but I did witness both my mom and younger sister be physically abused. I was also emotionally and psychologically abused. My mother, sometimes my father, constantly criticized and humiliated me and my sisters. According to Hines, Maley Morrison, and Dutton, my sisters and I were maltreated to different degrees. Since we were each maltreated to different degrees, we had completely different experiences and takeaways from our childhood, and as a result of it all, my sisters and I hated one another. I emphasize this because it is very different from the experience Calcaterra describes in Etched in Sand, a true story of 5 siblings who survived an unspeakable childhood on Long Island. The siblings in this book loved one another despite the abuse because they had to work together to survive. They may have been abused, but they weren't alone because they had each other, excluding the time when they were separated. I know I constantly felt fear and loneliness, and while I'm not certain, I don't doubt that my sisters shared these feelings. It is mind-boggling to now understand that my sisters and I have suffered the most harmful form of violence humans can encounter. STEP tells us that the human brain develops in such a way that our stress response systems are immediately connected to systems that interpret the moods and actions of those around us. When social cues tell us others are calm and safe to be around, our own psychological state is regulated accordingly and we relax our vigilance. On the other hand, when we sense threats or negative emotions, we respond by going on alert. A stressed state cannot be maintained indefinitely without serious mental and physical consequences. Extended or repeated periods of so-called hyperarousal can cause changes in the neural system that are very difficult to reverse. I can see our child faces now. One, always quiet, afraid to speak, covered with fear. one always fearful, lonely, and sad, and one aggressive as to hide the fear and pain. As I think back to how I felt as a child, constantly interpreting anger, constantly feeling fear and loneliness, and how my siblings must have felt, I feel really sad for the younger versions of ourselves. For years, I have imagined how we would have turned out had we not had so much violence in the home. However, despite the challenges and risks that we will face for the rest of our lives in some way, I am grateful for my experiences. This is not to say or suggest that violence is okay or that every person is as fortunate as I have been, but without those experiences, I would not have seen the need and adopted the passion to help children in a way that my siblings and I were not helped. All right, well, I'll see you guys around in discussions. Bye.